no doubt. But keep in mind that they were given to sound an alarm, to alert people to the winds of spiritual subterfuge that blow through this fallen world. And that gracious warning was meant to also help the artists, many of them no doubt gifted and sincere, who become conduits for these very deceptions.
This is a song about the greatest man who ever lived.
Prince, for example, has spoken very directly about his belief in Jesus, even composing a number of songs that reference certain aspects of Christian faith.
We all have a problem, oh yes. Some are big, some small. If we can bear the problems, he said we can. We'll have everlasting life and paradise. The Christ as our King. Do you believe it?
But these glimmers of light are swallowed up in the darkness of both a lifestyle and a body of art that has but one overarching theme: run away, do your own thing, and hence, by definition, anti-Christ sexuality.
I don't know.
Ditto Lenny Kravitz, who frequently references God.
I'd like to thank God for blessing me with music and making this possible.
As well as the occasional passage of Scripture.
None of us are perfect. We all fall short of the glory.
And has written a number of songs with the stated intent of pointing people to Jesus.
Are You Gonna Go My Way was written about Jesus Christ, who was the ultimate rock star and rebel.
But like Prince, his version of Christianity is far more Gnostic than Christian, where obedience is reduced to with the rub-a-dub being taken quite literally in what are among the most sexually debauched music videos ever produced. Perhaps even more significantly, faith itself is reduced to some vague state of mind and is directed as much towards oneself as it is God.
Believe in yourself.
Come with me into the willow garden now tonight.
And then there's rock's Renaissance man, Moby. Again, he's been very vocal about his, quote, love for Christ.
In my own strange way, I'm a Christian in that I really love Christ. And
acknowledging even his divinity, at least sort of.
But I really do love Christ and recognize him in whatever capacity that I can understand it as God.
But once again, his brand of rock and roll faith means never having to love Jesus so much that you might actually have to obey him. Having performed naked, dated strippers and prostitutes, DJ'd for copulating ravers, urinated on the food at a record label party, and extolled the virtues of pornography. Moby understated his case a bit when he admitted that when he aspires to live according to the teachings of Christ, or at least some of them, he, unfortunately, has to be a bit selective. From Tom and Mark of Blink-182, R. Kelly, Destiny's Child, U2, Puffy Combs, Britney Spears, TLC, DMX, Christina Aguilera, LL Cool J. We could go on and on and on, citing examples of pop artists who have modeled this pick and choose, the word of the cross made foolish style of Christianity. Imagine being in an orchestra and then blowing off the conductor and playing what and how you wanted to play. You wouldn't last too long, would you? Well, does God somehow deserve less? Look, this is not complicated. God is God, and we're not. In fact, not only are we not divinities, we're classified 4F, fallen, fallible, finite, and foolish. God, in his love and mercy, has provided a way out of this mess. But it's a way that Jesus described as being narrow, and then contrasted it with the way of the crowd, where the gate is wide and the path broad that leads to destruction, and that there are many who travel on it. That narrow gate is the cross, the one that the Messiah died on, and the one we pick up as we die to ourselves and follow him. And so, what is the cross to you? Through which of the two gates are you walking? And if you were to die and stand before the one whom sin nailed to a cross, what would you say?
All Father Yahweh rules on high, King of kings and Lord of lords, revealed to men in Jesus Christ, King of kings and Lord of lords. Fear before him all ye lands, King of kings and Lord of lords, grace and judgment in his hands, King of kings and Lord of lords.
You know what they want? You really want to know what they want? Something sacred. That's what they want. Something sacred.
It's been well said that the human mind always seeks to justify what the heart has chosen. As we approach our moment of truth, any number of excuses are thrown out to justify what our fallen hearts have embraced. In the arena of music and popular culture, there are three that are perhaps the most common. The good person, good intentions excuse, the neutral music excuse, and the it's only rock and roll excuse. So now let's look at each of them in turn.
But I mean, it's just music. I mean, a lot of the artists I listen to are Christians themselves, I believe. They believe in God. They mention in their albums. They mention in their award shows. I mean, I'm sure they say something inappropriate here and there, and they act stupid at times. But, you know, we're just humans. We make mistakes. I mean, you know, Christians aren't perfect as well, you know. They're just forgiven.
In a country where over 50 million people claim to be born-again Christians, this type of excuse is both common and horribly flawed. First, as we saw earlier in this series, saying it's just music is like saying it's just nuclear energy. For good or ill, music exerts an extraordinarily powerful influence. But equally cliched is the good person who believes in God defense. The truth is, professing belief in God by itself means nothing, as Jesus' brother James noted. Faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead. He then got even more specific. You believe that there is one God? You do well. Even the demons believe and tremble. The reason they tremble? Because their end is hell, judgment, and chains of darkness. A destiny that only a few verses later is said to be shared by spiritually minded but self-willed humans, believers in God, no doubt, who walk according to the flesh in the lust of uncleanness and despise authority. The fact is, Jesus reserved his greatest indignation for these types of religious hypocrites, people who draw near to me with their mouth and honor me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. If we stop and think about it, we can all understand God's disgust with this type of hypocrisy. Deep down inside, we know that there are few things more detestable than people who self-righteously say one thing and then do the exact opposite. For example, what would you think if you were watching the news and saw something like this?
With KTLV5, I'm Ashton Bryce, live in front of Smokey's Barbecue Pit, where Pets, or People for the Ethical Treatment of Swine, is kicking off its national boycott of Smokey's, protesting the restaurant chain's killing of pigs. These dedicated protesters gathered outside Smokey's even before the restaurant's doors were open for business this morning. They say they mean business when it comes to defending pigs.